Hello and welcome to WhatKeepsYouAwake.tv. It's time again to dive into the hustles, the hurdles, and the highs that keep small business leaders up at night. I'm your host, David Hooser, and we're honored to welcome today's special guest, U.S. Congressman David Schweikert. Congressman Schweikert, or David, represents Arizonans of the 1st Congressional District. And in full disclosure, I'm a proud supporter of David's vision and principles as a resident of the 1st District. Congressman Schweikert, welcome to the show.
Yeah, and look, it's always dangerous doing something with someone that's a friend and actually almost a neighbor. But thank you for having me, because we don't do enough sort of discussion to those folks who are trying to be entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
Trying to, and also understand.
Yeah, that's the bread and butter of our country.
It's the bread and butter. It's the most of our employment. It's where the breakthroughs come from. But the fact of the matter is, it's the dominant players in the economy,
right?
That have the lobbyists, that have the researchers,
right. That's right.
That's where one
voices.
of the great unfairnesses is in the U.S. economy.
Yeah. So that's what we're here trying to balance out a little bit. At least we do our part. So with that, let's get into our foundational questions. We ask all of our guests. In your case, tell me, as a person who is no stranger to the challenges of building a successful business based in Arizona, and at the same time, you've been instrumental in crafting big-scale legislation.
Lots of stuff. Being on Ways and Means, you get to play in the big arena.
In the big sandbox, yeah. And so tell me, what keeps you awake late at night?
All right. Well, the funny answer is this, because I consume
Too much.
stunning. Oh no, I don't drink alcohol. I could use a 12-step program for coffee.
For coffee. I drink, and I cereal drink coffee in the morning. I'm pretty good at putting it away in the afternoon.
Coffee's supposed to be hot. You're a heretic.
No, I drink it hot. I drink it hot even in these warm summer days of Arizona.
In that case, and look, we tease about that, but what really keeps you up, and one of the great things with my job, and one of the terrifying things, is my access to information.
Yeah.
So I also chair the Joint Economic Committee.
Yes,
so I have like 5 PhD economists that work for me. And you get this avalanche of information and data. So on one hand, there's just life. There's family. I am 63. My wife's 63. And I have a 3-year-old we've adopted. I have a 9-year-old we've adopted. And greatest thing in my life, but they're very loud and very hard to put to bed. But with that, in my current position, I feel the weight of the world, because you carry a burden of how do you make things work? How do you take
a complicated system?
Yeah, and we're going to touch on this 3 or 4 times here, because it's going to make sense. I have a country where we're getting old very fast. Yeah. And we almost never talk about this. You
and I are in that last wave of the
baby boomers. And I have the same number of 20-year-olds as I had, or excuse me, same number of 18-year-olds we had as 20 years ago. But I have double the numbers of 65 and up.
Yep.
And next year's number of 18-year-olds is smaller, and the year after that is smaller. And so when you have a demographic curve like that, how do you have the vitality in an economy to grow? How do you have tax receipts to pay for all the promises?
Right.
And how do you make sure people like me with young kids, that these kids aren't part of the first generation that lives poorer than their parents? And that's why there's this constant battle and struggle of what can we do to pop productivity, prop up or help the next generation of technology that makes things better, faster, cheaper, because you're going to have fewer young workers, but we have the cusp of technology that may make this another, so we make this another American century.
Right.
How do you get the policy properly aligned for that? And that's where also the opportunity is for small business, is to be innovative into that space.
Okay. So we're going to get into that. I like to, what we do normally with our guests, and you're an Arizonan and a small business owner, so we like to talk a little bit about your journey. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up in Scottsdale.
I grew up here in town, went to Saguaro High School, and I actually got my real estate license when I was 18 years old.
All right.
So just finishing high school, got my real estate license because
So at 18, you're an entrepreneur because every realtor I know is an independent business owner.
And understand, I did the crazy stuff. I did everything from wash dishes at the Windmill Dinner Theater to shoveling horse stalls to working at a drugstore to selling Amway.
Okay.
Because I wanted things, and I grew up in a family that there was this morality of work.
Sure.
You had to go out and struggle and try.
And parents did not give you safety nets like
no,
parents do
they
today.
didn't.
That's for sure back then.
Now, look, we grew up well, but we also had a family business that had good years and some pretty brutal years.
Right.
And I was turning 18 during a brutal year.
Okay.
And it's helped create that sort of fixation that if something isn't working, try harder, try doing it smarter. And you'd be amazed how often working the problem can get you there. And so I functionally sold land during the day and went to university at night.
Okay.
I ended up becoming a finance major. Really wanted to do statistics and other things, but I don't think I was as smart as I wanted to pretend I was, and got lucky, and then have gone back and did an MBA. And
all of that in Arizona as well.
Oh yeah,
right?
ASU. The pursuit of truth, knowledge,
Absolutely.
and a really great tan.
And a good time.
They hate it when I say that, that. But look, it's home, and you and I are blessed. We've gotten to live, for me, grow up in a spot that has been pretty dynamic, where you have people moving here from other parts of the country with sort of a hope and dream and an entrepreneurial idea. And it's been a very welcoming culture where you could move here it really was closer to meritocracy.
Absolutely.
Than some parts of the country where, hey, you're not third generation.
You didn't go to this high school.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to make sure we battle to keep that culture.
Well, the other good thing for that, as an entrepreneur myself, is that government welcomed entrepreneurial spirit and energy.
But that's becoming a problem.
That is the discussion for today.
Talk to how many folks who are trying to start a little business, we're helping someone trying to start a little manufacturing business here in town. And she is just getting the crap kicked out of her, just trying to get her permits.
Right.
Trying to deal with a little issue on where the ingress egress will be on her lot. And it wasn't that way a decade ago. So some of the control freaks have sort of moved in, and you also have these layers. So you got to deal with your municipal government, your county government, your state government. And it's time that from a government level, they sort of go back to that idea of a one-stop shop. Walk in, here's this permit I need, but that's a state permit. Here's how I get my tax permit. Here's how I get my sales and use.
Right.
Here's how but
because it's interesting. We should. I've had several guests on recently who tell their stories of starting their business. Gentleman this morning, 24 years in business, Arizona-based company. He's written a book on his experience. The gentleman yesterday started as an attorney. Said, "I got the itch. I am an entrepreneur. I can't sit in this corporate tower anymore." Went out on his own, started a pest control company.
Yeah.
And he's written a book. So the interesting thing, all the folks.
Yeah, no one will want to read my book because it'll be too much me being annoyed at things.
Yeah, well, I get that, but that's probably the book everyone needs. I get the inspirational side, which their books impart, but it's the functional, tactical side.
Yeah, it's
really,
getting your mechanics down,
that's
that's so often. I have people who have the brilliant idea, but they don't realize how screwed up government can be.
Sure.
Or how difficult it is to sometimes find financing. The capital. One of the things that crushes small businesses, and heaven knows I've been through this, where you're starting something and you miscalculated how much cash you need, how much capital, how much credit line, how much of your personal do you want to co-sign?
Right.
Do you want to do personal guarantees?
Right.
Sometimes you have to do things.
Most times
some-
you don't have a lot of choices. If you
And
want-
sometimes trying to convince your wife that this is, but work through the mechanics. One of my rules for everyone, and at one time I helped people invest money in small businesses and
Okay.
those things. So I managed certain venture capital, and it was hyper localized, which was fun. We would actually almost require people saying, okay, have you spent a couple of weeks? At that time, we would say in the library.
Right.
Do you understand who your competition is? Do you understand what your competition is good at? Do you
Right.
understand what they're bad at?
Or is there competition?
Yeah.
Because there may not be a market if there's no
It's shocking how many times we would get someone, it came to us and say, I have this idea, I want to do this. And you'd put them in your car, put them in your truck, and I drive them through the very area. This is a classic one. We invested in a woman who was doing a barbecue restaurant. This is 30 years ago.
Right.
But the area she really wanted to do it, I put her in the car and drove and say, there's one, there's one. She'd never thought of saying, could we look at a map and see where there's an island where there's population who can afford your price point
Right.
and where the
That
need is
like
not
the
satiated.
product you're going to sell.
Yeah, and it worked. She did fine, and she paid us back, and we moved on.
Interesting.
But so if you're also on the other side, because often we're talking about entrepreneurship, there's those who are doing the businesses. There's the ancillaries. Have you done well in life? You'd like to put some money out
Right.
into business to help the next generation grow. What we're finding now is, okay, I'll invest in you, but I want you to listen to some of my failures and my successes. And the mentoring comes with some of that
Sure.
money. And that's, I think, been a remarkably
that's the
good
nugget.
thing here in town.
Yeah, that's the gold that an up-and-coming,
Mhm.
aspiring entrepreneur needs. And that's the whole point that we try to impart through this show is those are the things you have to do.
So
Don't just take your idea, get the enthusiasm. Entrepreneurs are positive people by definition.
you have to be pathologically optimistic
That's right.
because, and particularly if you're
That's
going to do restaurant or something like that, but be disciplined. Know your information.
Okay.
Do not be willing to actually accept the negatives, the battles you're going to go through.
Mhm.
Because if everything's happy talk, someone else is also going to be doing it too.
Sure, if it's easy.
There's an old saying that excess profits leads to ruinous competition.
Sure.
The number of times I have someone say, I'm going to make a killing on this, and the next day there's a dozen others in that same product or that same business space. Heaven knows I've gone through this
Right.
in real estate ventures
Right.
where we're going to build a hotel here because the rates are through the ceiling. And within a year or two, there's a dozen
10
others that
hotels.
solve the same math.
That's right.
And yet you made this investment and you didn't do the basic research. Just go downtown and see who else is also filing building permits.
Yeah.
In today's world, you're walking around with a supercomputer in your pocket.
Oh, there's no reason why you shouldn't have that.
You have
information.
access
Yeah.
to information,
Right.
understanding what your regulatory burden is going to be.
Right.
Um,
Fully understanding those can.
it makes a world of difference.
Yeah. And once you know that, tells you if you should even, make a go of it based on your financial capability.
Yeah.
Because regulations are huge, a big issue, and all the, you're talking about all the things that come out of Washington, but then you've got everything
The
below
local-
Washington.
And the local is really, we have some cultural battles ahead of us locally.
Absolutely.
In the previous decade, Arizona, particularly the Phoenix area, went from a very moderate to many places low income, the state where the jobs, what they paid.
Right.
And you got to give Doug Ducey and the people around him some credit. Over those years, we brought in businesses, entrepreneurs, much higher skill, much higher talent.
Right.
This engineering company, this chip design company, these sorts of things. And you look at the wage growth in Arizona and where we now fit in the median wage calculation for the entire country, we've done really well.
Sure.
And the elected class like me need to battle not to screw that up.
Right.
Because after this inflation cycle, so many workers here are poorer today than they were 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's hard to explain, but unless you make about 27, 28% more today than 4 years ago, you're poor.
You have less disposable income.
So now you go to the level of the craziness I have to work on. What happens in a society where, today we have 70 million that are 65 and up because it's doubled in the last 20 years, and our number of 18-year-olds is staying the same. In 7 years, Social Security Trust Fund is empty,
right,
and grandma takes a 24% cut unless we fix it. In 7 years, we go from $1 trillion spend today to $2 trillion spend on Medicare, and the Medicare Trust Fund is empty in 7 years.
Right.
There are these headwinds coming, and it's mostly demographic. How do you take that and say one of the ways as a society is if you can build productivity, if you can build wage growth,
okay,
if you can do things better, faster, cheaper.
Right.
And even on many people call it the big, beautiful bill. Its real name was a reconciliation bill,
right,
for those of us
it was, right,
in what I do. We were trying to do things like, can we put expensing in so a business will invest in that piece of equipment that makes it so they can do their job so much faster and they can pay people more.
Right.
Let's go geek out just a tiny bit.
Without hurting their margins, because if you're paying people more and paying the same amount of tax, giving them tax incentives or stimulus opportunities helps them make those decisions.
In some ways, but expensing is really not a true tax incentive. It's a timing incentive.
Timing. Sure.
You still get the same depreciation.
Sure.
You take it over 7 years or 12 years, or do you take it today? It's still the same.
It is.
But look, your high school economics class, there's only two ways you really raise someone's wages. Inflation. Well, when you raise someone's wages because of inflation, they didn't go anywhere.
Net.
Or productivity.
Right.
And so that's the virtuous cycle of how do you make it so a small business can today buy that 3D printer,
sure,
buy that piece of equipment that now allows them to compete with companies that have dramatically more capital. And that expensing is one of the reasons we do that. We did some other things on if you wanted to modernize a facility for manufacturing, you get to expense that.
Right.
If you wanted to build a building for production and manufacturing, you get to expense that. And there's method in this madness. There's reasons we did this. Is it costs. We are going to borrow more money because of this, but we're hoping in the long run we can spike that productivity. That as we roll into the next decade, wages come up, productivity come up, and that's how you start to just stabilize. And it's hard. The numbers are terrifying.
But a lot of small business owner-operators, how does the current legislation help them overall? But a lot of the purchases they make are not at the scale of.
No, but if you're let's say you're the pest control gentleman you had.
All right.
He goes and buys 3 more trucks.
Yep.
He gets to expense them.
Bonus.
The equipment he needs, he can it's full expensing.
Right. Okay.
So it's true bonus expensing. It's right now. It's not like hey, 3 years.
We're back to 100%.
100% expensing. He decides he's going to put up a building.
Okay.
And inside that building, he's going to actually meet some of the some of the definition of manufacturing.
Right.
He gets to expense it. All of a sudden, at least some of his cost to capital is dramatically different. And we're hoping that actually will, and we're already starting to see some preliminary, it's going to create a spark, a virtuous cycle of investment that makes us so as a country, as a society, we do things better, faster, cheaper. And look,
but that's one side. So that's one side. How about opportunities? Like you said, you're gonna increase productivity. How do you the motivation for that is to invest in your business.
Okay.
What are some of the other things ways you benefit the small business?
Well, I'm going to go geek out on you a little bit.
Okay.
But some of the biggest complaints I have, from my entrepreneurs, people trying to, expand their business, but I can't hire people.
Right.
You got a demographic problem. You're not going to like what I'm going to say, but tomorrow we're not going to suddenly have this many more million people go to trade school.
Yeah, that's right.
We have even here in Arizona, we have schools shutting down, not because of charter schools or vouchers or this and that, because total number of kids is functionally static over the last decade. Yet we've grown how much? As you're building your business plan, think about how you use technology. You can be the tiny 1, 2, 10-person business, and you have access to AI. It might cost you $19 a month and go subscribe to it. But you have access to technology that in previous years only belonged to the huge mega corporations.
Right.
Think about how you use that in everything from how you build your shipping process, your manufacturing process, your customer service. We did an experiment with the IRS last year where we actually had a chat being the one answering the phone.
Right.
And it would stay on the phone with you. It'd help you fill out your tax form. The phone actually got answered. On our human side, we only had like 31% of the calls getting answered. The chat had a higher satisfaction than the humans.
Right.
Because it's gotten so good.
And you don't have 2-hour waits on hold.
So, but what happens if you're that pest control business now, and I want my customers to love me, I want to take, but I want them to be able to call me at 1 a.m. because they saw a scorpion or this and that. You can use technology instead of having to hire 3 shifts of people.
Right.
And it's shocking how many folks who are really good at their business idea haven't thought through the fact that there's AI packages now to do your accounting. And credit cards and debit cards where it just goes straight into the accounting package. So the money you were spending to have someone doing this all day long.
Data entry, right.
Just because you're small doesn't mean you don't get to participate in the technology revolution, doing things better, faster, cheaper.
Sure, and that's one of the things we talk about here is the part of the challenge. I tried deploying some AI agents in our accounts receivables department, but the technology wasn't quite ready for that.
Was this about a year ago or 2 years ago?
It was about a year ago.
You're going to be shocked how good it's getting.
Yeah, and so we are deploying upgraded, improved approaches now, at least trying. The other thing that we got back, and this is always going to be a challenge, is I want to talk to a person.
Yeah, and then so you always make that accessible.
Yeah.
But most the public has actually gotten very smart, Look, before COVID, there was this folklore that people won't use FaceTime to talk to their doctor. They won't use telehealth.
Right.
Today, we find there's a huge portion of society that actually doesn't want to talk to the doctor. Yeah. They want to just use telehealth. They don't want to get in the car, drive, go sit in a waiting room. Let me hit the button. Let me talk to the nurse practitioner. Tell her I need my prescriptions renewed. It's fast. It's efficient. It's much more productive.
Sure.
And do not underestimate that the public in many ways is much more comfortable with using these things. Now, the backside of this is I can't tell you how many small and medium-sized businesses, their websites, their call-in are crap.
Yeah.
And you walk them through this, and this is both me as
they're not ready. They're not ready for integrating technology.
They don't think about
on the back end of those websites.
Yeah, they don't think about it, or they have an IT person that's just trying to keep their their desktops operating. And they haven't just stopped for a moment and said, let's spend a weekend having a discussion group with people that know what the hell they're doing.
Sure.
And maybe we could revamp. I have a supporter, a big-time construction company. They're almost getting rid of their office because the technology of the laptop, the portability. Now, they have a dozen trucks and those things, and they're turning their trucks almost into their office. They can see inventory. They can see timing, construction, delivery, concrete orders, everything.
Sure.
And they all see the same thing. The amount of money they're saving on just rent is changing the company's economic profile. Right.
I mean, not a story that the landlords of Arizona want to hear.
No,
But strategies like that will become the norm.
Look, there's a reason you didn't go to Blockbuster Video last weekend.
That's right.
You
For
today
sure
you
is.
go home and you hit a button,
Right.
and you can stream the
stream
entire
whatever.
world's inventory.
Right.
And I use that somewhat jokingly,
Right.
but it's amazing how many folks.
And-
There's companies where they're still spreadsheeting everything.
Right.
And you go, okay, I love Excel. There was a time in my life 6 hours a day I was in front of Excel spreadsheets hacking stuff out. You'd be amazed the packages now that will autofill it out and then mine it and tell you where you have a problem.
So we agree things are going to change. So let's talk about the landscape then. So
Where do you go?
I mean, the argument would be the stage is being set for what I call the one employee $1 billion company. So there's
actually some I hate to say there's I think a couple books written on that concept of you contract for what you need.
That's right.
And only for the time you actually need
That's right.
it.
And you implement productivity tools, AI, and other strategies that will give you the capability. And because of tools like AI, a lot of entrepreneurs wannabe or aspiring entrepreneurs will become entrepreneurs because they're not as afraid because they have that support infrastructure.
Let's actually you're going a brilliant way whether you
whether I'm into it or not. Go ahead and say it, Dave.
I have a fascination with micro entrepreneurship. We have a whole thing I've worked on for years of it changes poverty.
Sure.
The fact of the matter is the person here that makes amazing jerk chicken but may live in government housing, should she be allowed to make amazing jerk chicken and sell it? And the fact of the matter is these things now give you a platform.
Sure.
Now you got to deal with the chaos of government regulation, but that micro entrepreneur. So, hey, from this hour to this hour, I work a traditional job. This hour to this hour, I'm using the technology that lets me. How many people do Uber Eats and those things? Okay, those are side hustles under someone else's platform.
That's right.
Think through a few months ago, I wanted to do a video on how a certain idea of crowdsourcing data would work.
Okay.
A little geeky. I went on the internet, found someone that would do one of those whiteboard cartoons, sent him my script, and a week later, there it is, and hit Apple Pay and paid him. Now, but if you look, it looks like this congressman has an entire graphics media department.
Right.
Think that way, and it's your concept of I could have very few employees, but a huge presence, and that is an interesting revolution of what the next generation of entrepreneurs looks like.
Yeah. So entrepreneurial participation will grow. I think you'll have no choice. There's a lot of people will see the opportunity. Others will be forced into the opportunity.
So now there's issues that those of us who are on the policy side have to fix.
That's right.
And are in absolute war. How do I change the cost of healthcare?
Right.
So you're going to be an entrepreneur, but you now keep a traditional job because that's where you and your spouse get health insurance. Mm-hmm. How many entrepreneurs do you know as they're starting? They're starting. My wife has to keep this job because that's how we get our health insurance. And the promises of the ACA, Obamacare, you're going to be able to have the
marketplace.
But the actuarial curve is so screwed up.
Right.
Today, even adjusted for inflation, many of the prices are double what they were before.
As an entrepreneur, I couldn't afford to go to the marketplace.
And that's part of the absurdity. But what happens if the fact of the matter, you could have a revolution delivering the cost? How do I explain this? I wear an oral ring. Okay. I'm doing an experiment with a Dexcom, which is a blood glucose. I don't have diabetes, but I'm a little geeky. I want to play. Are we in the moment where the thing you can blow into it, which actually exists, you blow into it, and it tells you if you have a virus or bacteria infection. It knows you're not allergic to the antiviral and can order it for you. Okay. It's a flu kazoo. It's a breath biopsy. That technology is functioning illegal in the United States because it's the AI prescribing. but it also could help crash the actual cost of healthcare.
Sure.
The ability to have a handful of employees and say, we're not going to have a doctor on staff, but we have some technology here. Or a co-op of, hey, there's a number of businesses, and we're going to do it this way. But there's an incredible battle out there for organizations, bureaucracies that say, this is the way we do it. We don't want the disruption of competition.
That's right.
And that's actually what worries me is you're the entrepreneur, you come up with the way to do it better, faster. And something so many entrepreneurs never process, they don't think about, is the incumbent business model that you're disrupting is going to try to stop you.
Right.
The amount of lobbying I get in Washington, D.C., that is a protection racket.
Yep.
Don't change this law. Don't allow this technology to do this.
Don't reduce the regulation.
So they're not asking for money. What they're asking is barriers of entry for the next generation of technology.
Right.
And
so how does our community address that? How do we raise our voice?
The art there is many of the things have to happen now at the state and local level.
Yeah. Okay.
Will Arizona be the sandbox? Like we did a guy named Jeff Winiger a few years ago did an amazing sandbox for distributive ledger, for types of technology there where you could start a company that manages data and does it this, and you don't carry certain liabilities, you have minimal regulation. And it actually fostered, it's one of the reasons here in Arizona, there's some crypto stablecoin companies and those things that actually write their technology here.
Okay.
Got to think about, are there ways to build that entrepreneurial sandbox so the trial lawyers don't come show up, or the competition doesn't come and block you, or the regulators who are defending the incumbent model don't shut you down.
Trying to keep their jobs as well.
Yeah, and this may sound theoretic, but I have dozens of examples where I've had people in my office in D.C., and if you listen carefully enough, what they're doing is saying, well, this is good for health and safety and protection of the public. And oh, by the way, we're the only one with the patent on it.
Right.
It's to stop the next generation of how you would do the same business.
So what do you think 5 years from now, Arizona SMB landscape looks like? What's the tailwinds, the headwinds?
Okay, let's walk through some of the tough things. Let's do the ugly first.
All right.
Arizona, about 45% of our budget comes from the federal government. This is just Arizona.
Sure.
It's not even some of the municipalities. Almost every dime of that is borrowed at the federal government level.
At the government,
Washington. So think of this. There's 18 states now that have better credit ratings than the federal government. Next year, for every dollar we take in tax collections in the federal government, everything, this is customs duties, tariffs, everything, we're going to spend about $1.43. Take in $1, spend $1.43.
It's bad math.
Most of that growth of that debt is interest. We're going to spend $1.2 trillion this year in total interest costs. Interest is now the number 2 expense in government. Defense is now number 4, heading to number 5.
Yeah.
And so now you have this difficulty of, are you going to start seeing the money that is provided for things you like? How much more money from the federal government is going to be going out to states and municipalities when it's just trying to finance Medicare or things of that nature? The commitments and pensions or pension guarantees.
Sure.
So that's going to be a headwind at local levels. How do you create a disciplined, free market, entrepreneurial spirit at every level of state and local government that they understand the virtuous cycle is prosperity, not handing out money for this, regulating this, and then theoretically you've made so many commitments. Arizona has a really good tax system right now. Our education system has come light years. You got to go after every dime of waste and fraud. Just the sober living home scam at Access, which is our Medicaid system, may be in $2.8 billion. We think we have another one. It's just been exposed of a $500 million, and the fraud is actually being driven from out of the country into our Medicaid system.
Right, and we're paying.
So
the money.
There's where the state could tighten things up, but if we don't, do you have that ratcheting that has happened in so many other states where we need money? Here's the people that are politically active that demand the spending. We're going to screw over business.
Right.
We're going to raise taxes.
Right.
We're going to do these things to extract money from them.
Right.
We got to constantly make the moral argument. Wage growth. A decade ago, we all complained Arizona was a low to moderate income state. We've moved up so much. We got to keep that progress.
Okay.
Don't think it's going to come from largesse from the federal government. It's going to come from our own entrepreneurial spirit.
From our communities.
And an entrepreneurial spirit can be you starting a business. It also can be the folks at the Arizona League of Cities and Towns saying, hey, why don't we create an app and why don't we share the paint striping truck instead of every city owning one? Why don't we all share it?
Okay.
There's ideas like that of sharing assets, of doing it better, faster, and cheaper.
Yeah.
And you'd be shocked that you'll get folks from the cities say, I love it. But the guy that sells us the paint striping truck is cranky.
That. Yeah.
You got to follow what's moral.
Right. Well, what makes sense for the community.
Exactly.
So, all right. So you think that part of the challenge is the obstacles on a local basis. What are the other challenges
I would also argue as if you're thinking of starting a business, be honest about not what you know, but what you need to know.
Okay.
It is shocking how many people, I had a business like this when I was in high school, or my family had one, and I'm going to do it today.
Yeah.
And they don't realize the average age in their neighborhood is changed so much.
Right.
Or who has the disposable income, or the types of cars they want to drive, or the types of needs they have. Think about your business in two aspects. What technology can make it as efficient and seamless as possible? How many entrepreneurs lose their mind trying to do the books, trying to watch the books?
Right.
God knows I've gone through that where I found out sometimes people you charm you and then do some crazy things with your bank account, and you got to. It's uncomfortable, but there's ways.
Receivables too. I mean, you let those get behind and
they crush you.
Yeah,
but there's technology to help you do that. Understand that.
That's right.
And then the second thing, understand who's your customers. It is shocking how many folks, I have this idea and I love it.
Right.
And you go, but who's your buyer?
Who's going to buy it?
And then who's your and then with that is your customers. And do your customers have relationships with someone their product may not be as good, but is it cheaper, better? How do you break into that?
So will we have, so knowing, again, targeting Arizona companies, what our current demographics are, how many Gen Zers versus millennials versus baby boomers we have, and
can I give you a living example?
Sure.
So we see lots of data right now that younger people are dialing back on their alcohol use rather dramatically.
Absolutely.
So you want to go start a sports bar,
right?
Okay, great.
Who's going to come?
Oh, well, but in that case, maybe also think about, hey, I'm going to have a whole series of taps that are non-alcoholic beers.
Right.
And that is actually how you understand, here's the demographics, here's the trend, here's the market and taste.
Sure.
The business model works if you actually satiate that, hey, these folks, the craft beer world has flattened.
Right.
And in many places almost hit a wall. So offer the alternative product.
Right. Mocktails.
And that's just a simple example, but the data is real.
Based on the data.
Yep.
And so you need to know that data. What do you think Arizona demographics are going to look like? And because we're heavy baby boomer, do you see a big transition still? A lot of people moving to the valley.
Yeah,
a lot of tech jobs coming to the valley.
Well, there's the great battle because you have some of the huge fabs being built, but when the fabs are up and running, their employment base is not monstrous, but the ancillary businesses
Yeah.
to it are fairly substantial.
Yeah, the real estate business, the
And you're
retail business.
And we have to deal with a couple cultural things. We do find some older baby boomers, particularly if they've moved into retirement, are a bit more skeptical about growth.
Okay.
And we've already seen
Meaning not in my backyard kind of mindset.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that. And the ability to try to help understand this is our economic well-being. If tomorrow Arizona would stop growing, what's the value of your house?
Right.
What's the value of the businesses?
Right.
What do future tax collections look like? Now, you don't want growth for growth's sake.
Right.
You want growth for prosperity's sake, wage growth, equality. We've done terrific at getting better quality jobs, higher paying, more technical.
Yep.
Have everyone from policymakers to your local chamber to just a concerned citizen continue to say, we want to continue to high grade the quality that comes here. But the fact of the matter is a quality welder is still really important.
Big
as the guy that ends up over at TGen is a synthetic biologist.
Right.
I mean, he may pay a lot more taxes, but I need my gates welded.
Right.
And we've had this arrogance sometimes of, what's a good way to, my quick anecdote. My vet and my plumber are married to each other. Okay. My plumber makes more money because, and she has like $250,000 of student debt.
Yeah.
Now he's a workaholic and he's the fastest plumber I've ever seen. We need to just explain, as you have so many, particularly young males not succeeding in college, that there's still terrific opportunity for them. And this is just building a vibrant economy and then places for everyone to have that opportunity.
So you see the base of business growth still here for the next 5 years.
Yeah. Now, we are going to have the uncomfortable conversations also on, we're going to have to manage water.
Of course.
We're going to have to manage power. Just the baseline growth, let alone data centers and other things that are power sinks.
Power hungry, water hungry for cooling.
We have other outliers. If California is starting to shut down refineries and much of our gasoline comes out of California, should we be at least planning to try to encourage another gasoline pipeline coming in out of New Mexico or Texas?
Right.
But that's actually, you elect people to think about the future instead of doing today's theatrics. And my fear is we get rewarded often on social media and other things for the theatrics of today instead of fixing what's going to be a real problem tomorrow.
Yeah, need. All right, so you're overall positive.
Oh yeah,
Arizona is going to continue to be the place you and I love to call.
We've had our rough times.
Okay.
You know, I was selling real estate and running a little business and those things in the late 80s when I remember 1990 91, desperately trying to get a contract with the RTC. Many of us blew up in the dot-com bubble. Remember what happened to housing prices here in 2008? We've lived in the roller coaster.
We did.
We're getting big enough now, though, that those spikes should start to flatten out because we're not just all about real estate anymore. Right. We're now a technology, manufacturing, design, healthcare research center. We need to keep a highly diverse portfolio for our community. And with that, even if things go to, you have a few rough years, we'll do fine.
So we have a little hiccup in real estate like we're feeling right now.
But that one has a number of causes.
Sure.
And some of it is, the low mortgage rates from a few years ago. Do you want to sell? Affordability is a real problem.
That's an episode on its own.
Oh, yeah.
But the point is, you're going to have issues throughout.
It's just life.
But you can weather those because you have a diversified
back to your operating theory. How do we make money? We make money by solving problems.
Right. What? Doing things people will pay
Yeah,
for.
if everything's perfect, warm, and fuzzy, everything is a commodity. There's no profit in it.
That's right.
It's when there's problems, we get paid a premium.
Okay.
If you're the entrepreneur, now that problem may be I need a really good barbecue at a decent price quickly for my family tonight. I need a new technology on my house because grandma's in a wheelchair.
Right.
Who knows what solving problems is, the benefit you give to society, and also how you make money.
Make your income. Right. All right. Well, cool. So thanks for spending some time out of your break. I guess you're heading
it
back
isn't much of a
soon.
break.
It's not much.
But the chaos continues. And look, I love this.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with like this is my 9th cup of coffee.
I had to dial back because I'm in studio all day today, and coffee loves to flow rapidly through my body. So.
Yeah, probably too much information.
I'm with you. So anyway, thanks again, everyone. We had special guest, U.S. Congressman David Schweikert with us today, learning a little bit about, number one, his journey, and number two, the things to keep in the forefront of your thoughts as you are taking your journey throughout the small business world that defines who you are. So remember to review our episode. Give us a like if you can. Give us feedback if you need to. And subscribe to our podcast at whatever platform you consume your podcast from. So we'll see you on an upcoming episode soon. Thanks. Thanks, David.
Thanks for having me.